Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Tyler from the Unemployed Architects. I'm going to be talking about my shows this last weekend. I had my 2-night show in Davenport for the month, and I also played, in between those 2 nights, I played at the Run for Respect in Pontiac. So I decided to do the first 2 shows solo, and then the third show, I decided, Laura Lynn, Blair, and I decided to do that one together. So Friday night, the solo show, I went down pretty early. I had to bring a second sound system so that way I could go straight to Pontiac after and then have a sound system in Pontiac separate and leave the one for Davenport kind of all set up. So I did foot percussion Friday night, Saturday night for the Run for Respect. In the middle, I did just acoustic with my JBL. So Friday night, I went pretty early. I got in around 7, had a couple hours to set up. So I pretty much set up until the time I play. I think I had about a half hour maybe by the time. So it took me about an hour and a half. And I brought a lot of stuff. So that's probably why it took me so long to set up. And I knew that I was setting up for the next night, technically. I wanted to get everything as close to plugged in and ready to go for the next night as possible. And since there was going to be, me, Lo, and Blair, I knew that I would need a lot of stuff, and it's a really loud room. But the show, again, it was a little, I couldn't really find a groove that Friday night. It was like, I just couldn't get in the flow. I don't know what it was. It was there were songs here and there where I felt good, but it was hard to keep the momentum going. And I mean, I'm playing a lot of covers, so when I would play, a few covers here and there, that would grab some people, it would kind of get me going a little bit because they'd be into it. And then I don't know, I'd play one song that maybe they didn't recognize as much and kind of suck the energy from the room a little bit. But I mean, it's always a little slower on Friday night than it is Saturday night, and it didn't get busy till probably 11, so that last hour, and I saved a lot of good songs, so it was a pretty solid set the last hour. I think it was just a little too loud or something the night before, and anyway, so then I got done, and I still got a lot of compliments, people who were into it. I just couldn't quite get to that feeling I was looking for, and I would touch on it, but I wouldn't stay in it, I guess. And maybe I was preoccupied with thinking about the drive home and stuff after. But anyway, so after the show, I kind of packed everything back and took a few things that I would need for the show in the morning. I went and got some food at this place called The Office down the street that it's really good, bar food. I always get their steak quesadillas, and they have these spicy crab rangoon egg rolls that are really good. So I got a few of those, and that took an extra 25 minutes because it's all prepared right as you order it. So anyway, probably got on the road around maybe 1:30. Took a little over 2 hours to get home. I had to stop at Walmart right when I got and I went to Pontiac, so when I'm saying home, that's what I'm talking about. I didn't drive back to Bloomington because I knew that if I had to go to Bloomington to sleep and stuff, then I would have to get up extra early the next night, which would be pretty rough, I think. So I had to be up there. The show was at 10 for the Run for Respect in Pontiac, so I would have had to get up super early, leave super early. So I went all the way to Pontiac just so I could sleep in a little bit later. But then I ended up having to stop at Walmart to get some sleeping clothes and stuff like that. But so ultimately, I think I got about 4 hours of sleep for the show, for the Run for Respect show, which I woke up for that, and I was like, oh, my voice sounds like garbage. I played a little bit too long the night before. I had a couple encores I ended up and did that night. So, I was playing for about 3.5 hours. I didn't even take a second break on the Friday night because I felt like I would lose the crowd if I did that. So, anyway, so I got up with very little sleep, and my voice was pretty shot, but I tried to, stick to my routines as much as possible as far as the caffeine and the other things the Alpha Brain and stuff like that I normally take for the show. And I ate a little bit, which I don't think was a bad idea necessarily, but usually I fast for a long time before shows. So all I did was eat some bacon just to have something in my stomach for the show. I didn't want to be like starving. But anyway, I ended up I left later than I was hoping, of course, and I got up to the show around 9:15, which I was really shooting for 9. But since I used the JBL to set up, it was pretty straightforward. I kind of forget when it's just me solo how little time that thing takes to set up. So I ended up with about 10 or 15 extra minutes before I started. And every year I always forget that they at the Run for Respect. I play it every year. It's it's always fun, and there's always people, and it's a good cause, and I usually make a little bit in tips, so it's like not completely for charity. I at least get my gas money paid for. And this year was like the biggest year. I guess there were 500 people there. So I mean, it's good to be in front of that many people and play. But they always use my PA for the announcements and for the awards and stuff, and I always forget. So I didn't bring long enough cables, so they had to like stand right next to the sound system, which you could tell they weren't super excited about. But I don't know. I didn't have a lot of communication with the people that were running it, and like I said, I just always forget how it is every year, because it's like they make a bunch of announcements, sing the national anthem, and then like they all go and run while I play a little bit. But like within 10 minutes of me starting, it's completely cleared out because everybody's on the 1 mile walk or the 5K run. So I'm pretty much playing to nobody for a long time. I ended up in tune down, half step down, just because my AM voice, and I was worried anyway. So it actually surprisingly was like fine. Like I thought it would be tougher to get through the set, but since I'd have to be thinking a little extra hard. But since my voice was lazy, it was like easy to sing a half step down. And then I was worried that later I wasn't gonna be able to sing in standard very good, but that didn't really end up in happen either. So tuning down was definitely the right choice. And I think for the most part it was a fun show. It just would have been cooler if people were like around the whole time, but it was like at the beginning and at the end I had a good crowd, and I made way more tips than I normally do, which was definitely cool. It definitely made the show extra worth it to drive from Davenport. So, and then after that, I drove back to Bloomington. I got another hour of sleep in. I had to restring a guitar, and then me and Lo headed to Davenport for the second night. And we got there around 6:45, and everything was mostly set up, and Blair was already there. And I don't know, it was a really good show. That was definitely my favorite of the weekend, the second night in Davenport. I'd been recently, I watched this Queen documentary, and I was just like, really, not too long ago I watched the Queen movie, which I wasn't super pumped about, as far as I feel like they didn't really show a lot of the struggle that he probably would have had to go through. And I know that maybe that's not what they were shooting for, but as a musician, that's the part I enjoy, the grimy, hard parts that nobody really knows about or sees. I guess that's ultimately why I'm doing this podcast, because talking about all the nitty gritty as well as the ups and downs. But anyway, so I ended up and watched the documentary after I saw the movie, which I like the documentary a lot more because they talked way more in depth about pretty much every part of Queen. And there's just something about Freddie Mercury that was just like so prolific, was just like his confidence. I mean, he had so much confidence on stage, and just he could control a crowd like no problem. And so I've really been trying to, even on bad songs or bad shows, been trying to bring a little bit of that into my show, and just being more of an entertainer, I guess, instead of just a performer. I don't know. don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but I'm trying to be more confident and try to kind of lead the crowd a little bit more. And Saturday night was just, I feel like that I was on point as far as that goes. Like, everything sounded really good. Having Blair there, something about having Blair there that just makes everything like so much easier because he's carrying half the weight. So like, I'll play a song, I can put my all into it, and then I can kind of lay back and let him do a song. And even on his songs, I have fun just kind of playing guitar on. And then Laura Lynn as well. She definitely takes some of the weight off of both of us. So, I mean, having all three of us there, I think that's kind of the benefit to playing in a full band, is that you have different... When you're playing just acoustic by yourself and you're having to do all the sound by yourself, it's a lot of work for one person. So when you have more people there, you can lean on everybody else at different times. Kind of the focus gets taken off of you for like a few seconds. So then when the focus is back on you, you can really like give it your all. And when one of us is like really, really feeling it, it makes it much easier for the other people to kind of get in that zone as well. So like on my songs where I'm really feeling it, Blair maybe plays guitar a little bit harder and has a little bit more fun. And then when it comes to his turn to kind of sing a song, he's like more into it already because of the last song, sounded really good and we had fun. And there's like between all the singers, there's, I would say, like a little healthy competition. So it's not like, some nights Blair has a good night and I have a bad night. Some nights, Laura Lynn's having a bad night, but Blair's having a good night, and I'm just kind of in the middle, or vice versa. It could be any combination, essentially. But so it brings your game up a little bit, though. So if you're just playing by yourself and you're having a bad night, it's hard to get out of that funk, You're just like, oh, why can't I make any of these songs sound good? But then if you're playing with somebody else and they're like doing really good, it gives you like, oh, I need to figure this out. I need to try a little harder. So that's part of it. And then also you have more fun on their songs, and that kind of brings you up to that performance level. And getting to that performance level is a tough thing. What I was saying about the Queen movie or the Queen documentary is that like a lot of the footage from when Queen performs live, especially that Live Aid performance, I mean, to get to that level of performance is just it's a hard place to get to. I think some people obviously are born with a little bit extra in that department, and I think it can be learned a little bit because I have certain nights where I feel like I am there, and then I have other nights where I'm not even close. So, and there's lots of X factors. I mean, how much sleep did you get the night before? How much? What did you eat that day? How much have you been playing? How much have you been practicing? All those are factors as to kind of tell whether you can get there or not, whether it's even really an option. But playing in a group, I think, definitely is one of those things, kind of what I was talking about just a second ago, is like playing in a group can get you there sometimes faster, but there's also a lot of things playing with more than one person that is tough. It's hard. There's a lot of egos, I probably have a big ego. I mean, everybody does that plays music, because it's like we're pretty much in front of an audience saying, hey, look at me, which is a kind of hard thing to do, to really just wrap your head around. But, so you have to have a little bit of ego to even start that. And then, like, for me, I write songs, so, I must think that I'm good at it, or else why would I do it, So that's kind of like the negative part of playing with the group. You can hit much higher highs for sure, and that is, a lot of fun when you hit those highs. But the lows are pretty rough because, whereas when you play solo, it's like kind of a nice medium. Like your lows, you still have lows, you still have highs, but they're just not as extreme, I think. And with a full band, it's like there's a lot of cogs and lots of things going on at once. So if one of those is just a little bit out of alignment, it's felt all around. So I don't know. But anyway, ultimately what I was getting at is that Saturday night show in Davenport, Iowa was awesome. I had a great time, good show, good audience response. I felt like I was on point with the crowd participation and crowd, as far as the crowd paying attention. And I felt like I was leading them a little bit, and that's something I want to get better at for sure. But it's a hard thing because you have to be that guy. You have to have a very high, especially to do it for like 3 or 4 hours. You have to have a lot of energy. You have to have a lot going on beforehand, and that's just some days isn't possible. Just like I was saying, there's a lot of X factors to get there. So, but anyway, that's something I'm going to definitely be focusing on, and that's my plan anyway for at least a while. And I go through phases, like I'll go see a live show and it'll kind of rock my world a little bit, and then I'll be like, oh, I need to be more about the entertaining part, and then I'll play shows for like months and months, and it'll kind of get less and less, and I'll get a little more jaded and have some bad shows. And then I'll go see, I'll watch a different documentary about a different band, or I'll go see some live music that kind of blows my mind and kind of gets me back to that place where I generally want to be as far as performing goes. But anyway, so those were the shows this last weekend. This week I got Friday I'm at Joe's Pub here in Bloomington. Saturday, I'm at Clayton's Tap up in Morris, and then Monday night, playing on the radio for Weft Sessions, and going to be recording video as well. So we'll get the audio after we play. I'll try to sync it up to the video, put those together. Anyway, thanks for listening. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.